Hey everybody, I'm Joe DeGanzik, and this is Smarter Home Life. It's that time of the month. It is the monthly Q&A episode, singular this time, just because in April there was kind of a light month for LED lighting questions. So I'm kind of taking both episodes and combining them into one. Normally there are two separate ones, but anyways, this is kind of the more lighter, more casual, less edited, more freeform. And a little bit longer. These tend to be, this one may be 40-45 minutes, simply because there's a lot of content. It might be 30 minutes, who knows. At the beginning, there's a lot of housekeeping stuff, kind of some house ads, what's going on and so forth. If you want to skip past that, I don't recommend it. You can, but anyways, you can. The times are listed in the website post that is associated with this. You can get that at smarterhomelife.com, or simply click the link that's in the published video description right here on YouTube, or wherever you might be watching this. Anyways, that's how you can get to it. So housekeeping stuff, you've been probably seen over the past couple episodes, kind of some audio differences. I'm playing around with it's right just off camera, a new shotgun mic, so I'm not always tethered to a recorder and so forth. It creates a little bit of echo, but hopefully if it's positioned well, kind of close enough, it'll be okay. And just, we're trying to move things along with audio quality and setups and whatnot here. Some other stuff, just we're going to have coverage in terms of there's a lot of events going on. In fact, today Microsoft Build started. I'll get to some of that in news a little bit later in the it's not worthy of an entire website post, but there's some social media hits that I put out there from other news sources, but it's relevant to one of the person's questions on home automation stuff. So Microsoft Build is this week. Next week is Google I/O. Early June is WWDC. All in all, these don't really matter in a sense to home automation kind of by themselves in terms of the overall picture, but what they're pushing, of course, with Microsoft, Google, and Apple, they're a good portion of that is the smart home, the IoT at this point. So that's why it's relevant to us, and so I'll get you the relevant stories. I'm not going to go into all that here. I'll have some prediction articles as to what we're going to look at for the next couple weeks, and those will be on smarterhomelife.com. So always check out smarterhomelife.com. You can subscribe via RSS, and we're also, the other new thing just happened recently is the approval from Apple. So if you're in Apple, if you use the Apple News app, smarterhomelife.com's articles are now feeding into Apple News, and they look really great. I'm dealing with some of the sections at the top right now. Some of them are empty, so working through that, but they're all listed on the main tab or the section there. So that's really cool. We're trying to get it in Google News as well. It's a little bit harder process to get approved over there. But that is that for some of the housekeeping stuff. Otherwise, last time I asked you, the viewer and the audience, to send in how you use X, right? How you use LED lighting, how you use home automation. It's not really, it's kind of an unscientific study, but I was actually curious about it and wanted to feature it in an episode. We got some good responses, and even someone actually said, I'll send you a video if you like. And I really hadn't pushed that idea because some people don't want to be featured, or they don't want it, but I actually would like to create something really awesome for June to actually basically kind of give back and show off what you guys are up to. Not that you've learned everything from me and Smarter Home Life. Obviously you get information and sources of how-tos and product reviews from a wide variety of sources, but I'm hoping I played a tiny little part in how your setups work. So tell me how you use LED lighting, smart lighting as well, and of course home automation, and what platform you might be in. Are you in the HomeKit world? Are you on SmartThings, some other Z-Wave type controller, proprietary? Are you on a software-based system like I am with Indigo back there on the Mac? Are you on a Raspberry Pi? Is it a DIY system? Tell me how you're doing it, and tell me the one thing that you really use every day that's really important to you in automating your home. And if you like, send in a 30-second video clip or some photos of your setup that would be featured, and that basically sending it in gives Smarter Home Life permission to feature it on this kind of how our users and the audience uses home automation. It'll be a separate episode in sometime probably early to mid-June. It'll be pretty cool. So send it in for the video clips. Best way to do it is just upload an unlisted video clip to YouTube. Send me the link and I'll get to it. If you can't do that, email me anyways at questions@smarterhomelife.com and we'll figure it out. So I want to make something really cool for for June. I love the interaction with you guys, with the comments and the questions and so forth. That makes this much more interesting than just me sitting in front of a camera doing how-tos and product reviews and just being like, hey, this is really cool, you should think about buying it. You know, actually, I really don't try to say that. But anyways, you get the picture. Send it in. I want to make something really cool. So there's that. So let's see. Apple News, we're featured on there. Upcoming news stuff for the for all the upcoming news. We'll probably have kind of a little bit of a lull in the summer, because once we get past June, there's not that much in terms of product releases. There will be some additional product reviews that'll kind of trickle out. But I'm going to start doing some other content and getting back to some of the original educational content for the channel, and continuing the how to get started with home automation and a few other things. And of course the big home tour, the tiny home tour here in the Smarter Home Life home studios, as I call it, is coming up very soon as well. Next thing, how all this stuff is made possible, not just with ads. We've got a good group of people contributing who have been contributing for more than 2 years, and I just wanted to highlight a few of the names of the newer people: Brian T, Ralph M, Warren, John R, and of course the many others who contribute on a regular monthly basis to help make Smarter Home Life possible. There's 2 big goals this summer. Would love to smash through these. Would love to do it in the next 30 days, and it's completely doable. Is to make this go full time, to make regular content possible. And also, you know, between this goal and the big one is bringing on some more personalities and faces and voices to the channel. So it's not just me producing this stuff. There's a wide variety. We've got new content, new like roundtable shows and dedicated news shows for the smarter home and IoT stuff and whatnot. And then the big goal, of course, is getting rid of the YouTube ads, getting rid of the web ads entirely, becoming completely independent. That obviously, the independence is great, but the other part that's great as well is the fact that then the content is not reliant on clicks and views and numbers. It's really about me and the additional people who come on board to really make excellent, great content for you, the audience, because this is the stuff that you really want. And so with the advertising model, it's all based on how much something gets. So that's why you got to cut it down to 5 minutes. You got to make it fit for everybody, and it just kind of becomes a pain. So going independent lets me and future people on this channel produce the quality stuff that you really want to see, independent of the numbers and the ad system. So that's what we're going for. I know it sounds really silly. You know, these episodes tend to get 1,000 to 1,500 views, sometimes more, depending on what's going on. I know it sounds silly, but even $5 a month from all the people who say view this video, it makes a huge difference. It makes it possible we could actually hit the goal. Like if enough people decide to contribute to become what I call Smarter Home Life insiders, where you get access, you're not just contributing, you get behind the scenes stuff, you get sneak peeks on upcoming reviews, you get to be part of some really cool video chats, and there's a lot more if you just go to support SHL, smarterhomelife.com. So you get the perks. But if enough people basically became, you know, supporters in, I don't know, the next day or so, and we hit the goal, the advertising and all that stuff gets turned off tomorrow. So anyways, that's it. I've spent, if I look at the clock, I've already spent way too much time on the housekeeping stuff, but it really is important. First question on LED lighting, kind of lighting in general. This is from WM Destroyer 666. This was a comment on the 2015 LED light bulb buying guide. There should be a new one of those coming up with some additional variants sometime this summer, probably late this summer as in terms of timing. So he asks, what is the difference between CFL and LED daylight spectrum? And he says, I know CFL provides a nice blue spectrum. Are Philips the same? I'm guessing he's referring to Philips LED. I don't have a Philips bulb here, but that's okay. So this is the challenge, and I won't try to demo this in terms of the differences in the light output, because what can happen is there's 2 completely different technologies. So this is, and this one's a chopped up LED bulb, and this one is not. This is, of course, CFL. So you got CFL, you got LED. Normally this has a globe on it, that's the diffuser. So CFL, this is the technology where you've got a gas. There is mercury vapor mercury that's put in and vaporized, so that you've got a gas inside, whether it's a CFL or a traditional fluorescent. the gas gets excited by the electricity. It then in turn creates UV light. The UV light is then converted to visible light in different, color temperatures and whatnot based on phosphors, chemicals, and the coating of these guys, and that produces the white light that we're used to. Years ago, these and the original fluorescents were not that great. They were usually available only in one color temperature, that really cool white blue. Or blue white that he's talking about, kind of more like a daylight white, and it was the light quality was not good, and especially on the early versions of these guys. So compare that with, you've got basically a gas, it's converting a phosphor and so forth. Compare that with LED, which of course comes in different colors. I'm going to just focus on the white version of it, and you can see, and I'll probably put up a close-up of this instead of just putting it on the camera. You can see that the LEDs themselves, they're not white, they're yellow. The reason for this is when white LED light was invented and perfected, which Cree is part of that. It was actually done by someone at Nichia who really created the first usable white light. It's actually blue light, and the phosphor coatings on the LEDs is usually yellow. So yellow, the coating is going to absorb some of the blue light. The remainder is going to get kind of mixed in and blended with that yellow to create that desired white light. And whether that's a soft, warmer, yellow white light, or if it's more of that blue, but that's what's happening with these LEDs. The LED itself is a diode. It basically emits light when the electrons match up with certain holes in the diode itself. It's a whole process. We'll link to Wikipedia so you can read all about it. But two different technologies. I'm biased in that, light and color are very subjective, and I see when I look at these, even today's soft white, warm white CFLs, I just see them as pink. And obviously the white ones, like he's referring to, daylight, it's really just, I see it as really, really, really blue. Not super blue, but it's just more of a bluish tone, and that's generally what it is, especially if you put them side by side. It's difficult to show those differences between, say, even a daylight white or a warm white if you compare it apples to apples, LED to CFL. It's very difficult to show on camera. The real testing labs and so forth use very expensive equipment. They use colorimeters. They use lumen detection devices. It's really it's not something that you can do with the equipment that this show has the budget for. We could get a higher budget, just donate on supportshl.com. But he's asking specifically again from to Philips. He's going from CFL and looking to do LED. It really is different. The spectrum, they're going to measure it as they can with their instruments. But as we all know, like I said, light and color are both very, very subjective from one person to the next. Someone could say that's more pink, it's more warm, it's more yellow, it's more blue, it's more white. So you have to look at it in the store, and really there are some, even the big box stores will have displays where you can look at the various types of light. Usually they're doing it on the LED lighting displays nowadays, so you can see that. You really have to go see it in person to really make that judgment call. It's hard to do it here. Even model to model, even if you looked at compared not so much with CFL in terms of the same manufacturer, the same model across a wide variety of just the products, but it tends to be in the LED world. They have to be very careful. The higher end products are done with something called binning, where they separate the various LEDs to make sure that they're all per bulb and a per batch for a product line that they will match, because people are buying them for higher end stores and displays, and people like me who care a lot about the quality and the color of light, that they're batched so that you can guarantee that you're going to get the same exact color temperature and that same exact tone of light that you're looking for. So in the consumer variety bulbs, kind of like these, it's not as much. You will see differences even if you bought, this was a 75 watt equivalent Cree LED from late last year when they redid the lineup. You will see differences. If you buy, say, 10 of these, you will see slight color temperature differences in each of these. They've gotten better, but it's a chemical process. It's a matching the chemical phosphors with the LEDs themselves. So the whole process is complicated, and sometimes it can be challenging even for the manufacturers to get it perfectly right. So That's the answer. I'm sorry it's not a perfect answer, but the best thing is to go look at these bulbs side by side if you can, to make a judgment call, or better yet, because you're probably not going to install them side by side, the best thing is take a look at the target that you're looking for in terms of LED and a daylight white. Look at it in the store, look at different models in the store that are lit up and see if that's pleasing to your eye, and if it is, buy it. And as far as manufacturer to manufacturer, I don't really have a preference. Again, it's subjective. What looks the best, what performs the best, and for me, of course, dimming is a big factor. So what dims the best? You don't want flicker and all that other stuff, and the other factors that have really gone away over the years, buzzing and noise and flickering and whatnot, have largely been solved. So I don't usually even speak about that stuff because it's 2017 and the lighting industry has really upped their game. So that's the answer on that. Thanks for writing in. This was WM Destroyer 666. Hopefully it's not a bad luck for me to say that. Okay, so the next topic, this wasn't really a question. I just wanted to kind of comment on it. Sometimes within the comments of a particular video, I'll notice that there were a lot of comments that came in. I thought they were individual. No, they were actually, you guys actually having conversations with yourselves within the video comments, and that's wonderful. It actually makes for a lively conversation. YouTube thinks that obviously the video is more popular, it kind of pushes it up, and it's fun to kind of watch the various comments. And some of them started as how I use my home automation, and then people were responding. They were talking specifically about in terms of hardwired and Ethernet, networking, and also obviously with Wi-Fi. One of the interesting things is these days, home automation largely in this new world of home automation, pretty much all of it is wireless. There's really no solutions that are out there that are left. In terms of consumer DIY, you could still buy if you want. You could still get a lot of hardwired products from Lutron and certain other proprietary systems, but largely it's all gone wireless, with Insteon being one of the last cases where they have their dual technology, where they're transmitting commands over the power lines and also via wireless simultaneously. But the rest of it, of course, the modern world, everyone thinks, oh, it's Wi-Fi plugs and switches and Bluetooth smart sensors and water leak detectors, and all the stuff that we're used to is just wireless, and it's Wi-Fi, because you're not going to wire your smart plugs and your sensors into, you're not going to run Ethernet to it. So now it's become getting signal to your entire home. This is part of the Wi-Fi mesh movement, which started a couple of years ago, kind of made more popular in the commercial world by Ubiquiti. Then it came to the consumer world with Eero, E-E-R-O, to make the little pucks. Google got on board last year with the Google Wi-Fi last fall. I'm forgetting one of them. We're going to talk about Orbi, which is made by Netgear. So everyone has gotten into this mesh thing. Now, in my place, this place is less than 400 square feet. I have one Wi-Fi router. It provides plenty of signal, and there's no problem at all. In a larger place, even when you get up beyond 1,000 square feet and you have to have multiple rooms, and depending on the construction and metal or regular walls and just so many different factors, you can lose signal. And in today's smarter home, with so many devices potentially running on Wi-Fi control, especially in the HomeKit world, and with these other products that are coming out that are just hubless things like LifeX and whatnot, you want to make sure you have enough signal. So these mesh networking devices make a lot of sense. Slowly but surely, we're probably going to see home automation protocol devices also get built into this. Now, depending on the protocol, they may or may not be designed to actually have mesh networking or not. Traditionally they are, and traditionally it's the devices themselves, smart bulbs and locks and other devices that support things like Z-Wave and Zigbee and Thread and whatnot, along with Insteon. It's got its own system as well, that will tend to extend the signal. But we haven't really seen that many repeater products or hub products that are super multi-protocol. The last one, of course, that was out there was Revolve, which wasn't a mesh networking system, but it was a hub that had all these radios in it, which got bought by Nest and shut down last year. And they bricked all the devices, which was a bad move. But anyways, you're going to see most likely more of these devices coming out that probably will support multiple protocols, but it is important to have this mesh networking of Wi-Fi come out. The other side of this, of course, is Bluetooth. People are, I think, usually wary about buying Bluetooth-based home automation devices, even though for battery-operated devices, that's pretty much about the only way to go. You've got a handful, and I mean a very small handful, of smart door locks that are out there that have Wi-Fi on board, but because Wi-Fi can eat so much energy and battery life, you generally don't see that. So Bluetooth is usually the default technology for things like remote sensors and, again, door locks and whatnot. But people are always concerned. It takes a while to wake up these devices. It's slow. How long is the range? Bluetooth 5 came out, and Bluetooth, kind of a subset of Bluetooth 5, is Bluetooth mesh technology. Some of it's been kind of taken and implemented by different companies. Illumi has made some progress with that with their smart bulbs, and they're looking to bring out a product that's going to be a potentially universal Bluetooth to Wi-Fi bridge coming out sometime this year. But they've done a lot of work with this mesh tech, that they kind of adapted some of the Bluetooth mesh underpinnings and then made their own secret sauce. So I think eventually what you're going to see also in these router devices and these mesh networking devices, you'll probably see Bluetooth come on board as well, just so that you've got complete signal across whatever spectrum of systems that you are going to have, so that all your devices can be assured that they're all going to see all of the other devices and their hubs and whatnot. So 2017 into 2018, we're going to start seeing more and more of this come out, and it's going to be really important because the smarter home is relying more and more on these wireless devices. So I just want to comment on that, really not a question, but that seems to be, especially from seeing what came out at CES and talking to different vendors, that's what we're going to see, I think, over the next year, is the propagation of more of these protocols. So SmartThings, in fact, has got a home hub router device that's coming out as well. So, and that's going to have Wi-Fi on board, or a Wi-Fi router. So you're just going to see more and more of this come out. This is just the nature of things. This is the way it's going. So that was not attributed to anyone, but I think that was on one of the Q&A episodes, and this is just where the conversation led. So I think it's pretty interesting to watch. It's not super sexy in terms of like, ooh, a new mesh networking thing, you know. It's not like a new smart lock or a new light bulb thing that dances and plays music and makes pancakes. You heard that pancake bot? I kind of want one, but not for $300. Nothing. You wonder if you can link it with your home automation, it'll just start making pancakes like when your alarm goes off in the morning. That might be cool. Anyone wants to send me one, that's great. That would be great. I love pancakes and I love breakfast. So anyways, all right, so email from Steve. Thanks, Steve, for writing in. My wife and I just recently bought a house. Congratulations. It's only 5 years old, so that's a pretty good candidate for obviously having modern wiring and, you know, just on the electrical side. I want to turn it into a smart home. Super. That's why I'm here, to help you turn your home into a smart home, or smarter home, whatever you want to call it, however you see your home. The problem is I'm finding that the switches in the living room, it's a 3-way switch. The kitchen has a 3-way switch. The hallways are 2 ways. The utility room, it sounds like they've got multi-way switches everywhere. Do you have any ideas how I can turn these switches into a smart switch? I appreciate your videos on YouTube, and thank you. Well, thank you, Steve. Thank you for the kind words. I love these emails. Okay, we all know what a 3-way switch is, right? You've got switches in multiple locations. I actually have two of them. There's one over there in the corner, it's off camera. The other one is behind me, it's off camera. It controls the light on the fan above me, or it used to, because of course I bypassed it and I put in a controller in the canopy, so now it's automated. Anyways, 3-way switches, you have 2 switches or more. They both control the circuit. And for me, I sort of hate them because I'm really anal retentive. I look at things that should be on and they're off, and it doesn't make any sense to my brain. And I'm just like, oh, I don't like it. So, because obviously the circuit might be on and one of the switches might be in the off position, and it just seems strange. Replacing them with smart switches, it's easy, because then generally they're just rocker switches that don't stay in any particular position. You just press on or off or dim or brighten on either one, and they're electronically managing that for you. And so there's a number of these things to choose from. Depends on, and I emailed him back. I didn't get a response immediately, but maybe it went to spam. So if you're watching this expecting the response, check your spam folder maybe. So there's a few different options, and it really depends on where you are. You're about to move your home into a smart home status. I don't know if you've started already a little bit. Maybe you've already picked a platform, HomeKit, non-HomeKit, traditional. You know, it really depends. So if you're just starting out, HomeKit on the Apple side, pretty limited at this point, so there's many more options on the other side of things. If you're on Z-Wave or Zigbee, if you've got SmartThings in terms of that's your controller, or Wink, or maybe you're going to go with a more dedicated hardware-based controller, like an more kind of old, I say old-fashioned, but there's a multitude of options. If you are sticking in the HomeKit world, only one option exists, and that's iDevices. It's very expensive, unfortunately. They do support with their no hub required switch that is recently just hit the market, 3 and 4-way switch combinations or circuit combinations, and you simply install those devices at each of the existing locations that you have, and you're good to go. You could convert them to not a 3-way switch, you know, and cap one of the wires, and you would disable functionality on one end. I'm assuming that's not what you want to do. Another option, I talk about Insteon, of course, all the time. Insteon, like Z-Wave and Zigbee, in terms of a protocol, is proprietary. It has to have a hub or some sort of controller so that it can talk to something else like your smartphone or some other home automation system. Insteon just doesn't have the wide support that something like a SmartThings has. SmartThings supports Z-Wave, Zigbee, Bluetooth, and Wi-Fi. Doesn't support Insteon. I always feel like I have to talk about Insteon because I really love it, but they just don't enjoy the wide support that everyone else does. But here's a smart switch. This is the Insteon Switch Link model 2477D, and it's a dimmer. They also have this in a variety of just an on-off. But even with this device, you know, you can see on the back, kind of, it's a little bit see-through. You can see some of the electronics there in the back. But anyways, you install just as many of these as you need in terms of you replace existing 3-way switches. You link them up electrically, you then program them and to each other, and then they will both, the light bars for the dim level will respond automatically, and they'll keep each other in sync no matter which paddle you press for dimming, brightening, turning on or off. Insteon devices famously usually have multiple functions. A double tap on the top or the bottom is going to turn the light on or off very rapidly in terms of in terms of versus being on a delay, like a dimming delay, like 2 seconds or something like that. These are very programmable. I love Insteon technology. Again, they don't have the wide support with compatibility with other systems, but still really, really rock solid. They make these things in products that you can link up to Wink and Z-Wave and Z-Wave, Wink and SmartThings, and other products like the Logitech Harmony hub system. So with Z-Wave and I'll just say Z-Wave switches, which are the norm usually for home automation for the DIY side. Again, you get the 3-way capable, and you install as many of them as you need. You program them, you link them up. I'm simplifying this tremendously, but it is possible. So pick a platform first, and then you can kind of go shopping. So anyways, if that doesn't clear it up, email me back, questions@smarterhomelife.com, and we'll discuss further. So that is that from Steve. We'll move on to the next question. Thank you for emailing in. And let's see, the next big thing. This is a long one. Maybe I'll try to paraphrase this. He's talking about sensors. This is from Robert. I'm going to start soon the process of making my home smarter. Super. I already own a Google Home. That's my preference. You know, there was a lot of announcements yesterday with the Amazon Echo and calling and the new Amazon Echo Show. I think the Google Home just is friendlier. It just listens better. For me, for now, my platform for voice is Google Home. I already own a Google Home, so I definitely want to utilize that as an input. Super, that's a great way. Voice is one layer of the home automation kind of world in controlling your devices. When I first started looking into this, SmartThings was the only hub. that's true. The Wink Hub now, they've made a lot of, Google Home has advanced rapidly over the past couple months. Let's see, however, it doesn't seem to offer many integrations. Wink or Google Home? Wink is usually pretty good. The main reason for contacting you was automating the lights in our house without annoying the family. That's usually the challenge. This is where, beyond just when you have someone, if you're living by yourself, it's super easy. Automate whatever the heck you want and it doesn't matter. But when you're in a family, when you have other people living with you, that's where it gets complicated. I wanted to utilize motion sensors to determine presence, to turn things on and off, but I didn't want to turn things on and off randomly. Then there's daylight savings time, schedules change, storm that causes the sky to be dark. You're saying all the right things. You're saying the things that I've already dealt with as well. Wondering if you knew of a motion sensor that is a luminance sensor, and I did get him a reference product on this that works with SmartThings. There was a Z-Wave product. I think it was actually also by Fibaro, which I'm going to talk about in a minute. Began to also think bedroom light might not be the best idea, blah, blah, blah. Okay, motion sensors are great. I like to use them for really specific things. In the last place, not the last place, last place I lived, there was a walk-in closet with a switch and a light. Perfect application for a motion sensor. You're you're inside of a closet, picking out clothes and whatnot for a few minutes out of your day. The closet probably doesn't have any natural light coming in, so you always need to light it with artificial light, and perfect for a motion sensor. And that's also automating your home. Even though the motion sensor might not be tied to a home automation system, it's still okay. You can get one that is tied to a home automation system, but not necessarily that you need to. Many of these sensors just come as devices that can be switched on or off, and they're right there at the load. You install them basically in a replacement, as a switch replacement. So beyond just single application, this is where it gets really tricky, because motion sensing and time of day and, like you said, luminance is the big deal. When you do have clouds that come in, they change the daylight from being kind of daylight to kind of not, which also means that as the sun goes down, it gets darker earlier, which means if you're relying on motion sensing or light sensing, only motion sensing based on a schedule, then you have a problem, and you have to have light sensing as well. I have found personally that dealing with motion sensing, other than for specific applications like outdoors, obviously we all know of, putting out motion sensing to turn on the floodlights makes perfect sense. Turning them, whether it's the backyard, front yard, driveway, it makes perfect sense. Again, like I said, for certain applications like the walk-in closet, makes perfect sense. Even for a kitchen or a bathroom, still maybe not. Even though you're only in those places, maybe not that often. The problem is, as soon as you go into one of those locations and you're in there for longer than you anticipated, you got to start waving your arms around, hey, turn back on. Sometimes it just doesn't work out. I find motion sensing, like I said, for certain applications, I find it great. For other applications, it takes a lot of extra programming and a lot of extra thought, and especially like you said, dealing with other family members, I find that they're just not as great in practice as the marketing pitch is for what they can do. When properly set up, and SmartThings is a good platform because you can do some customization with it. You can, if you want to get into writing your own code, you can write smart apps. I've actually recently kind of jumped into the SmartThings world because it was a way to do some integration with Google Home and my existing home automation system. So I'm getting more and more versed in SmartThings, which sounds odd for someone who does home automation, but I just hadn't jumped onto that bandwagon. But I had a need, so I jumped in, and I'm there, and I'm like, okay, this is pretty cool. So you can do more things with SmartThings as a platform than you can do with, say, Wink or some of the similar competitors, even though some of them have gone away recently. So I would say SmartThings is a pretty good platform to start with. If you outgrow it, there are other platforms like what I used with Indigo on the Mac. There's dedicated hardware choices, but I think that's pretty good for what you're looking for. Like I said, you can do You can do stuff with the motion sensing. I just find it to be more annoying if you're really trying to set something up more specifically. But I did send you an email, and I think I got an email back from you, so I think I've got some good information to you. Thank you again for the long email, and I wish you the best. And if not, then send me another email and we'll discuss more offline. That was from Robert. So thanks again for writing in. Okay, the next question is from Jacob Ortiz, and it's a long one. Again, I'll try to do a little bit of paraphrase. He's talking about smart things. He's talking about certain platforms that don't work well on Windows 10. We'll just call it specifically Windows Mobile, because otherwise you have to add all these extra words to it. I've seen a problem with smart home products, and the problem is companies like SmartThings, Insteon, and even X10. X10? X10? How many home automation shows do you see an X10 module from like 1995? Yes, I keep these things around for nostalgia. One of my original ones from Radio Shack. It's seriously the 80s and 90s logo. Good old plug-in power. Anyways, these companies don't play well together, if at all. I heard about IFTTT. That's right, the web-based service that can link a lot of these things together, but they're all one-at-a-time actions. So it's a cool service. I find it useless for my purposes. That's part of which is because it also doesn't interface back to my system, my main Indigo system. But aside from that, I don't find it useful, but you might. IFTTT.com, and it works with a ton of home automation devices, services, and other things too. If this, then that is what it stands for. Is there a better way to get these things talking to each other, these things and services? That's always, I get this like once a month at least, multiple times a month. I got this thing, it doesn't work with this other thing. Why is that? And I'm nice, but welcome to home automation in the modern world. So anyways, the only reason I see it as a problem is that there are a number of products that Insteon have made I like. Me too. And their hub is the only one that I know of that will let you, in a limited way, make a lot of X10 products easily compatible. Now, I'm not sure why you're using X10 still, but good on you. I mean, congratulations for still using X10. It is good for some things. The hardware is still sold in a limited way these days, but X10 was the forerunner to Insteon. It was the original DIY technology. It was invented in the 70s. It was licensed to a number of manufacturers, including Radio Shack, and they made dimmer devices, on-off devices, controllers. My original X10 controller is sitting back there that I used in college to run light shows, if you can believe that. Anyways, one day I'll show that off on the show. Anyways, so X10 was not very reliable, but it was DIY, it was cheap, it was a way to do some limited forms of home automation. And if you got fancy enough, you could do advanced forms of home automation as well, but with the technology of the time and generally no web interfaces, because the web didn't exist for a while. Let's see, X10 products. SmartThings has better compatibility when it comes to third-party and other companies. As a side note, I'm using Windows 10 Mobile, so SmartThings and Insteon are the only companies I know of that have official smart home apps on Windows 10. You're right. Not even Wink, a number of the other manufacturers, including, again, if you want to do the voice control stuff, if you don't like Cortana. What does Cortana do exactly? I haven't been on Windows in so long, I just am kind of out of the loop, especially with the modern Windows. Anyways, you can't even integrate into the Google Home. If you buy a Google Home, you can't control it on Windows 10 Mobile. There's no app. Same thing with Echo and Lady A, we'll call her. You can't do that because she doesn't exist for Windows 10. Obviously, that's a very small slice of the market. The Windows Mobile or Windows phones, the more recent ones, with the tile interface, beautiful interface, really actually, according to many reviewers, great devices, just it didn't take off. Now we've seen a lot of change over the past couple years with Microsoft being run by not Nutella, that's the spread, Satya Nadella actually. Anyways, Microsoft has come around. They've started making their own hardware in terms of laptop devices and multi-purpose devices and the big Surface Studio. So they've done a lot, and they're trying to move things forward. They recently announced, again, there's been leaks on this, and they're really working towards this Home Hub strategy, which is turning any Windows 10 PC into a Home Hub a la a Amazon Echo, minus you buying new hardware. But no one really knows if that strategy is truly going to work out, because it seems that for home automation or for voice control and convenience, it seems that these dedicated appliances like the Echo, like the Google Home, like the upcoming smart speakers, not from Microsoft, but will feature Cortana. Let's see, Harman Kardon is going to make one called the Invoke. HP just announced that they're going to make a smart speaker that will be compatible with Cortana as well. So Microsoft is also pushing down that route as well. I don't know exactly how the Home Hub strategy is going to work on existing Windows 10 desktops, and I guess it could be on laptops, but you don't have a laptop running all the time usually. So we'll see. It's supposed to launch later this year, and it'll be very interesting to see, because Microsoft generally, for home automation and even the voice control stuff, is just thought of to be, unfortunately, way behind the times. If they can catch up, that's awesome. And obviously Windows is not going away anytime soon, and they've got a huge install base compared to, say, Apple, but it really is about how they can really make it. Microsoft has to become cool and sexy and like the latest greatest thing that everybody wants, and they're already in many people's homes. It's just cracking that nut. So it could be with the smart speakers coming out, again, no release date, but it'll probably be a fall holiday season product. So that'll be of interesting news to me and to Smarter Home Life. So we'll cover all that stuff. And there wasn't that many other announcements on, say, like what the smart speakers are going to do in terms of day one of the Microsoft Build annual conference, which is happening right now this week, started today, and there was the keynote address. They released the skills kit for Cortana, so Cortana will get to be able to do more things, and with developers adding it, it'll kind of be like what the skills are for Lady A, and also what Google is doing with Google Home and the Google Assistant. So we'll see how that works out with them being able to add more stuff, because these assistant devices and even the Home Hub, they're only as useful as the things that they can do for you and the things that they can connect in. So I'm hoping that the fact, as you were saying in your email, that there aren't a lot of possibilities right now, but if Microsoft plays its cards right, there could be a ton more possibilities, and Windows could easily catch up to everybody else. But again, they've got to have the right strategy. They've got to execute on that strategy, and it's just got to be the right messaging, and number one, it's got to work. So thank you to Jacob for your email and writing in, and we've got one last one left. So if I scroll back down, we'll find, and this was a general comment, not on a specific video. This wasn't an email from, I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly, Clell Brit. So I'm hoping that's correct. Let's see. Hey, I like your content. That's fantastic. I love making it. So thank you. I'm just starting to get into home automation. Is that a theme on this? I'm just starting to get into it. So I'm on a budget, so I'm adding things to my collection a little bit at a time. I've got a Wi-Fi garage door, the thermostat, moving on to lighting. Not going the bulb route yet, instead looking at some smart plugs. The question is there a physical switch I can buy for the smart plug? Here we go. Let me just make sure I've got 3 lamps I want to control, don't want to have to use my phone. Boom, you're preaching to the choir. Okay, I just literally, if you haven't been to smarterhomelife.com ever or recently, please check it out. I wrote an article last week literally on this very subject about buttons. Buttons, buttons, buttons. I constantly talk about this. Home automation these days, everyone got really excited because we've got phones, right? We've got these controllers in our pocket. We can scroll, we can tap, we can have icons. It's wonderful, right? And then we had voice, which I think is good for some of the time. Of course, there is geofencing, there are sensors, there's time, for scheduling, like we talked about with daylight detection and scheduling for sunset, sunrise. All of these little factors go into home automation, and they all have to be used appropriately. That's really the name of the game. The one that tends to be forgotten these days is physical buttons, right? It's easy to upgrade to smart lighting these days, right? You don't even have to change out your switches because no one would want to do that, and maybe you don't want to even bother with plugging something in to a dedicated module. Just replace the bulbs and you're done, right? LifeX offers this. He mentioned TP-Link. There's a number of products that don't require hubs. And we've got the HomeKit products that are coming out. LifeX is supposed to have their 3rd generation stuff upgraded to HomeKit compatibility soon. So you've got a plethora of like smart bulbs, but then how do you control them? Do you get out your phone? Do you get out your watch? Do you use a voice command? Where's the button? Like, I still like, and you see this, you'll see this in the home tour coming up, but I still really like physical buttons. In fact, I've been using these keypad link devices. I'll probably put up a little photo from Insteon for years. They're just elegant. They've got backlit LED panels, little tiles. You can change out the labels on them. They're just wonderful, and they interface with Insteon controllers, and I've also made them because of the programming back on the Indigo running on the Mac. They interface with everything else as well. So I like buttons. Now, there are a number of buttons that you can get. Generally, they're all Bluetooth based. There's nothing that's Wi-Fi. There are some Z-Wave and Zigbee controllers that you can get as well. If you're in the TP-Link world, you may be, because it's a Wi-Fi product, you may not be on any home automation platform. You may not be, actually, let me reread this just to make sure. He's got the Wi-Fi connected to that. I didn't see anything about SmartThings or Wink. So you may be just controlling things manually via apps at this point. You might be doing this via something like Stringify or another one of the apps for home automation that turns your phone into a controller. So I would say that you really want to get some sort of button. There are a few different varieties. Obviously there are, like I talked about with Insteon, that may be a little bit beyond what you want to do because getting that to interface back to TP-Link is going to be a challenge. But the TP-Link stuff does work with things like SmartThings. So then you could get something like the flick button, or these little buttons that you can kind of stick anywhere. They're Bluetooth based, similar to the Logitech Pop smart buttons that are also Bluetooth based. But again, via Bluetooth, it has to go back to something. So either it has to go back to a bridge, it has to go back to something like SmartThings, and this is where it's kind of a challenge. And I know I emailed you back with some product links and some information. The other one that's relatively new, this one is not Bluetooth, but it is another protocol that you have to have. It goes back to either their own hub device or the something like a SmartThings. They don't have a lot of support for the button outside of their own products. This is Fibaro I'm talking about. If you want a button that's kind of whimsical and like you could press it like a game show, like no whammies, boom, you know what I mean? This is something that's fun. I've been testing this for a few weeks now. I have it linked to SmartThings. It was kind of a little bit of a pain because I had to download some custom code, not for everybody, but this does work with Fibaro's own home automation system, and that's a Z-Wave compatible and Zigbee and a few other things. I don't know about the compatibility between a TP-Link and Fibaro's system. Fibaro used to be Europe only. They used to be more high-end. They've kind of come into the consumer world in the US, but I'll demonstrate this. This is a multi-scene. If you like this kind of thing and you want to get into something that's a Z-Wave controlled device. In fact, this is my first Z-Wave device. Can you believe it? This is a 6-function button. 5 functions for clicks 1 through 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in succession, and then pressing it and holding it. And I'm going to press it once and it's going to trigger, it should, TV mode. We should go into that mode here in 1 second, which we are. Yep, it's going to change a few things. You may see some colored lights show up in the background and those lights behind me turned off. So this is actually talking to SmartThings. SmartThings is talking to my computer, and the Indigo is talking to everything else. So kind of a complicated setup, but it does work. This is, like I said, if you're outside of the Fibaro system, it seems to be a little bit more of a pain to set up. I'm just showing you the button. That's literally what it's called. It's the button. It comes in like 6 colors. And it's fun because it's kind of like this, game show buzzer button thing, and you can stick it anywhere. I think it's cool. Again, a little proprietary kind of ish because I think they want to stick within their own system, but it is a Z-Wave device, so you can hook it up successfully to other systems. So buttons are a big deal. I just think that your solution might be the flick button or the Logitech the Logitech pop button, which you can, I believe, run independently of needing the Logitech Harmony Hub. So I would seriously take a look at those products. I know the flick button does work with the IFTTT, and IFTTT should work with TP-Link, and then you could link those up. But when you get more complicated, you kind of grow out of the IFTTT world. So again, some of these things hard to advise. I'll remind everybody that I do offer dedicated home automation and LED lighting consulting. It's an hourly thing. It's a very small fee for what you get, and it allows me to do with video chat with you to really answer some of these questions in more of an interactive way. It's hard to sometimes get back to these questions, even via email, even on the show, just because there's so many variables. It's tough to make certain decisions and to give you some advice. But I hope I give you something that at least gets you started. And if you've got more questions, of course, questions@smarterhomelife.com. The consulting time, if you're interested in it and you don't want to do it through Patreon or the Insider program, which is the best way, but you may want to do it as a one-time thing, just shoot me an email and we can get that situated. I've done it for a few viewers already, and it's been very successful. So please get at me and take my knowledge. I also love a challenge, just trying to get the right thing done for the right solution for you in your growing smart home. So lots of great questions. A little bit longer of a show. We're probably at an hour at this point, so it's time to close it down. Thanks for watching. Make your home just a little bit smarter every single day through little changes and products and all that good stuff. I'm Joe DeGanzik for Smarter Home Life, and I will see you next time.